Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Excuse me, Professor Thompson. I know your office hours are tomorrow, but I was wondering if you had a few minutes free now to discuss something.
Sure, John. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I have some quick questions about how to write up the research project I did this semester about climate variations.
Oh, yes. You were looking at variations in climate in the Grant City area, right? How far along have you gotten?
I've got all my data, so I'm starting to summarize it now, preparing graphs and stuff. But I'm looking at it and I'm afraid that it's not enough. But I'm not sure what else to put in the report.
I hear the same thing from every student. You know, you have to remember now that you're the expert on what you've done. So think about what you'd need to include if you were going to explain your research project to someone with general or casual knowledge about the subject, like your parents. That's usually my rule of thumb. Would my parents understand this?
Okay, I get it.
I hope you can recognize by my saying that how much you do know about the subject.
Right, I understand. I was wondering if I should also include the notes from the research journal you suggested I keep.
Yes, definitely. You should use them to indicate what your evolution and thought was through time. So just set up, what was the purpose of what you were doing, to try to understand the climate variability of this area, and what you did and what your approach was.
Okay, so for example, I studied meteorological records. I looked at climate charts. I used different methods for analyzing the data, like certain statistical tests, and then I discussed the results. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's right. You should include all of that. The statistical tests are especially important. And also, be sure you include a good reference section where all your published and unpublished data came from, because you have a lot of unpublished climate data.
Something just came into my mind and went out the other side.
That happens to me a lot, so I've come up with a pretty good memory management tool. I carry a little pad with me all the time and jot down questions or ideas that I don't want to forget. For example, I went to the doctor with my daughter and her baby son last week, and we knew we wouldn't remember everything we wanted to ask the doctor, so we actually made a list of 5 things we wanted answers to.
A notepad is a good idea. Since I'm so busy now at the end of the semester, I'm getting pretty forgetful these days. Okay, I just remembered what I was trying to say before.
Good. I was hoping you'd come up with it.
Yes, it ends up that I have data on more than just the immediate Grant City area, so I also included some regional data in the report. With everything else, it should be a pretty good indicator of the climate in this part of the state.
Sounds good. I'd be happy to look over a draft version before you hand in the final copy if you wish.
Great. I'll plan to get you a draft of the paper by next Friday. Thanks very much. Well, see ya.
Okay.
Why does the man go to see his professor?
Listen to part of a conversation between a student and his professor.
Hi, Matthew. I'm glad you could come in today. You've been observing Mr. Grable's third-grade class for your Approaches to Education paper, right?
Yes. I go over to Johnson Elementary School, to watch Mr. Grable teach the children in class. It's been amazing. I'm just learning so much from just watching him. I'm so glad that classroom observations are a requirement for the education program. It's like the best thing ever to prepare you to be a good teacher.
Well, I'm glad to see you feel that way, Matthew. That's the goal. So, I've been reading over your observation notes, and I'm quite interested in what's going on, in particular with the astronomy unit he's been teaching.
The astronomy unit?
It seems that Mr. Grable has mastered the interdisciplinary approach to teaching that we've been talking about in class.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like when he was teaching them astronomy, he didn't just teach them the names of the planets, he used it as a way to teach mythology.
Really? So how did he do that?
Well, some of the students could already name the planets, but they didn't know that the names had any meaning, the stories behind them.
So he
introduced Greek and Roman mythology as a way of explaining. Like, how, Jupiter's the biggest planet, right? And how Jupiter was the name of the king of the gods in Roman mythology, right? So, since Jupiter, the planet, is the largest planet in our solar system, it's like the king of the planets, like Jupiter was the king of all the gods.
Oh, Matthew, that's a great example.
Yeah, and each student chose a planet and then did research on it to write a report and make a presentation. They went to the library to do the research. Then they made presentations about the planet they chose.
So, in one science unit, in which the focus was astronomy, the students also learned about the literature of Greek and Roman mythology, used research skills in the library, wrote a report, and practiced their oral presentation skills.
Exactly. He used this one topic to teach third graders all that stuff, how to use the books in the library, to write reports, and even how to speak in public. Plus, they had a great time doing it.
You know, Matthew, this is just what we've been talking about in our class, and I'm sure everyone could learn something from your experience. You know, Matthew, I'd love for you to talk about this astronomy unit in class on Wednesday.
Really? 'Cause I don't really think I'll have any time to write my paper by then.
Oh, you won't need to write anything new just yet. For Wednesday, use your class observation notes and explain the things we've discussed today.
Okay, that sounds all right.
What is the conversation mainly about? Listen to a conversation between a student and an administrative assistant in the history department.
Hi, I'm Randy Beecham. I really need to speak with Professor Clark right away. Could you get me in to see her?
Well, she's conducting oral exams right now. I can't interrupt her. The exams began at 8 this morning and are scheduled to go on all day.
But I was supposed to take my oral at 9 this morning, and, well, I don't know what happened. My alarm clock didn't go off for some reason, and I overslept.
Oh, dear.
I know, it's like really embarrassing. When I opened my eyes and saw it was already 9:30, I just got here as fast as I could.
Well, since you didn't show up at your scheduled time, the professor will probably consider it an unauthorized absence. I'm afraid that'll translate into an automatic failing grade for that portion of the exam.
Oh no, and I was so prepared. I stayed up all night studying. Isn't there any way I can maybe reschedule it?
I don't know what to tell you, Randy. As I said, Professor Clark will be examining students till 4 o'clock today and all day tomorrow. Then it's the weekend.
What about, like, first thing Monday morning?
No, Monday's not possible. Exam week ends tomorrow, and it's the dean who sets the university's rules on these matters, not the professors. The dean's very strict about granting extensions, except under extraordinary circumstances.
So I guess a defective alarm clock wouldn't count as extraordinary, huh?
I'm afraid we're talking something more on the order of illness, or if you had an unavoidable conflict, like an exam and another class scheduled for the same time. But, since exam week isn't over yet, it probably would be worthwhile trying to speak with Professor Clark. She might be able to find a solution.
The oral part of the exam's only a half hour long. Do you think she'd be willing to stay later this afternoon or come in a little early tomorrow?
I'm sure she'll do her best, but I can't speak for her, of course.
But I can't just stick around all day waiting for her. Do you think she'll be breaking for lunch?
Well, I hope so, for her sake. Let me check her schedule again. Well, she's got students scheduled till noon. Then she has a 1-hour break before the afternoon exam schedule begins. So, yes, she apparently does plan to break for lunch.
Noon, huh?
That's what it says.
Okay. Why don't I come back at noon then? But if you happen to see her in the meantime, would you please say I was here and that I'm really sorry I was late for my exam?
Of course. Good luck.
What problem does the student have?